Did you know that the Poirot series producers knocked out the detective's sidekick, Captain Hastings, and his secretary Miss Lemon from the show in the last seasons? And this is not what Agatha Christie planned for these characters. In this video, we shall look at what happened to Poirot's beloved supporting characters, both in TV series and in real life, in the books.
It's a shame you've never considered marriage, Mr. Poirot.
But there were occasions, Miss Lemon, when I did have la tentation, the temptation. But now, alas, I think it is too late.
Would you agree that although David Suchet made a masterful job of portraying the best Poirot ever, it would have never been the same without his trusted friends and assistants?
No, you must be my eyes and my nose.
Ears.
Way to see and observe in my place.
Right, you can count on me.
In fact, it was Captain Hastings who first appears in the storyline and introduces us to Hercule Poirot, both in the pages of the mysterious affair at Styles and the eponymous episode.
Yes, Madame Lady, but you...
Half a dozen stamps, please.
Very good, sir.
Hastings?
Good Lord. Monsieur Poirot!
It is indeed mon ami Hastings!
Captain Arthur Hastings is a lifelong friend, confidant, chronicle and roommate throughout their lives. Interestingly, Hugh Fraser, who portrayed Hastings in the series, was certain that the relationship between Poirot and Hastings is a walking relationship, that Poirot actually employs him, which would explain why Hastings is constantly around Poirot's flat.
You will have to make up your mind, Hastings.
Well, I'm going to. Tomorrow's the last day. I've got it marked in my diary. It says, decide about car.
In her autobiography, Christie said that although she particularly enjoyed Hastings, he was still a stereotyped creation that perfectly fit into his and Poirot's detective team, which she modeled on that of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. His lack of common sense complements Poirot's precision perfectly, and their friendship is one of the brightest highlights of this fictional realm. All in all, Hastings is featured in 8 Poirot novels, 21 short stories and 1 play. In other words, the character was a constant in Poirot's life for only 7 years and an intermittent companion for 12 more years after that. Even Hugh Fraser once pointed out that Hastings wasn't in very many of the books. In fact, he was put in stories that he wasn't in, as were Japp and Miss Lemon. Let's find out why. At first, Hastings was a nice tool for Christie, which she used to shape the character of the Belgian sleuth. He had wild, unpredictable imagination, which often pointed Poirot in the direction of unexpected conclusions about the case.
Oh, the kidnapping business, you mean? Yes, I had a word with Mrs. Waverley about that. I don't think there's too much to worry about.
That's very reassuring, Hastings. Thank you. But we must not try to walk before we can jump, eh?
At the same time, Agatha confessed that she couldn't imagine her Poirot becoming so popular that she would have to write stories about him for 50 years. The character of Hastings quickly became rather daunting to her, so she decided to get rid of him rather quickly, at least for a while, and made him fall in love, marry and leave for Argentina for the good. According to Christie, he was about 30 years old when we first meet him at Styles. Poirot was supposed to be much older. However, in reality, Fraser and Suchet were almost the same age during filming. In fact, Hugh Fraser is actually 1 year older than Suchet. Amazing, right? They've made a super job of Hastings looking much younger than his Belgian friend.
But there is a quality in Lady Edgewell that is most attractive. Do you not think, Hastings?
Oh, don't tell me you're falling for her.
No, Hastings. Poirot, he does not fall. He observes merely.
Through the course of the plot line, we learn that Hastings had studied at Eton College, enjoys everything related to cars, racing and golf, is brave and somewhat naive, is attracted to women and at the same time remains an English gentleman to the last detail.
Ah, Hastings. You've bought your car?
Bought and paid for.
Quite a light-hearted and rather likable character, isn't it? And although he apparently leaves his wife and 4 children in Argentina and returns to England alone, Christie wasn't much eager to bring him back to the scene next to Poirot.
Welcome home, Captain Hastings.
Miss Lemon.
Amusingly, the series producers decided to follow her path no matter that his character became extremely popular among the public in large part thanks to the stunning portrayal by Hugh Fraser, who once confessed that he had never seen any of the previous interpretations before they started shooting, because he wanted his Hastings to be something quite original. There is a chemistry between us all from the word go. After 12 years, the rights were sold to a new production company and they wanted a film noir feeling, which isn't in the books, and guest stars. Another series star, Pauline Moran, who played Miss Lemon, shed some light on that when the series came to an end in 2013. Her Miss Felicity Lemon, Poirot's no-nonsense secretary, became another gem of the crowd-favorite series. Indeed, she was a complete antipode of Hastings. Efficient, disciplined and direct, she had no interest in crime fiction, preferring facts and order over frivolity. And her attempt to create the perfect filing system for Poirot's cases might become a perfect ad for some courses on improving organizational skills.
Abduction, addiction, adultery, see also under marriage. Bigamy, see also under marriage. Bonds,
See also under marriage?
Pauline Moran, who brilliantly portrays Miss Lemon in the TV series, said that Miss Lemon is a reflection of Poirot, in that she has the same fastidiousness and obsession with detail and precision. Poirot described her as being unbelievably ugly and incredibly efficient. Anything that she mentioned as worth consideration usually was worth consideration. Poor Miss Lemon. Well, thanks to the brilliant Pauline Moran, she's definitely not ugly at all. She is actually quite an attractive, fashionable and emotional woman, showing an occasional soft spot for Poirot.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to overhaul the entire system. And the posters come.
Alas, Agatha Christie didn't share much about Lemon, as she only features in 4 Poirot novels and 4 short stories. Well, she's a middle-class working woman who is independent and earns her own money, although she mentions from time to time that Poirot doesn't pay her that well. We do know that she visits her mother now and then. She apparently has a widowed sister, Mrs. Florence Hubbard, who appears in the Hickory-Dickory Dock. In the series, there is only one rare occasion when we see her being involved in a short love affair, where a man is trying to deceive her.
This is Mr. Graves.
How do you do?
How do you do? I was just saying to Monsieur Poirot how much I envy you all, the exciting business you're in.
Well, you know. Please.
The script writers of Agatha Christie's Poirot went the extra mile to spice up Lemon's character. We learned that she has some attraction to magic and spiritualism, adores reading tarot cards, practices hypnotism, and otherwise tries to communicate with the spirit world.
Hastings, what means this with the planchette?
Oh, we're just fooling around. It's interesting, though. We think this could be from King Men-Hurrah.
Hastings, please pull yourself together. We have business to which we must attend.
Perhaps this inclination was a nod to Pauline Moran, who, apart from being an actress, describes herself as an astrologer. Anyways, Miss Lemon is delighted when Mr. Poirot returns from Egypt and brings a small cat sculpture as a gift for her.
I don't know how you can tell her such guff, Poirot.
No, Hastings, it is not a guff. The power of superstition. It is a power that is very great indeed.
And what about Japp, Christie's ferret-faced, as she put it? Chief Inspector James Harold Japp was actually being alongside Poirot for the longest time possible, appearing in a variety of intriguing cases.
Your name is Ascanio?
Yes?
I want to ask you a few questions, Mr. Ascanio.
About what?
Never mind the clever talk. Where's the money?
Alas, in the books, Agatha didn't elaborate on his character much, so it's again thanks to the stunning actor from the series, Philip Jackson, that we grew so fond of his chief inspector. Interestingly, he stated that he deliberately didn't do any research when he took on the role. I don't believe that reading Agatha Christie's books is particularly useful for doing the series. While she was good at plot and ideas, Christie wasn't that good at fleshing out her characters. The only thing I remember reading about Inspector Japp is that his hobby is botany. He has an amazing knowledge of plants and collects specimens and sticks them in books. I didn't find this at all useful to the way I wanted to play the part, so consequently it doesn't figure in my performance. According to Christie's ideas, Japp was meant to take place of Lestrade against brilliant Sherlock, sort of a mere juxtaposition of someone dumb against someone clever.
Monsieur Waverley felt that Scotland Yard was not convinced about the seriousness of the case.
So he came to you, eh, Mr. Poirot?
Monsieur Waverley is a man of fine judgment and intelligence.
Luckily with Japp, that didn't become so straightforward. There's an unmistakable sense of mutual respect and even friendship between two of them. Christie didn't specify whether Japp was married, and the addition of the comic out-of-screen anecdotes about his wife's personality in the series added another interesting touch to the character of Chief Inspector as a sort of antagonist of Poirot.
See, my Emily, she just doesn't understand my work. She never lets me talk about murder at the dinner table. And her tidying, it just gets worse and worse. Sometimes I wonder how I've managed to live with her these 27.5 years.
The actor gave an amazing insight into his character in one of the interviews. In the 1930s, the job of Scotland Yard detective was seen as being quite a low status. Today we tend to glamorize television detectives because they earn enormous salaries, drive around in flashy cars and have a rather elevated status in society. In those days, it was very much a tough life, investigating crimes of a rather distasteful nature. It was considered not a very good way to spend one's time, but Japp is a man with a purpose, and you can sense his disapproval of the more privileged members of society. He always gets very sniffy of people who seem to earn a lot of money with very little effort.
Bonjour, Chief Inspector. How did you sleep?
I didn't.
So, albeit the producers dropped the characters in the last seasons, except for the key final episodes, they went far beyond Christie's own ideas and greatly expanded them for the television series. After Philip and Hugh and I did Evil Under the Sun, we were shown the door, and they didn't include us in the storylines. I've mixed feelings about that. But I'm pleased they've caught up with us in the final series and given the chance to say goodbye to those characters, said Moran. Indeed, together they conveyed the sense of continuity, being sort of a family for Poirot, creating a feeling of warmth and familiarity for us, viewers.
Miss Lemon, Edwin has been arrested.
Edwin.
Yes, Monsieur Graves.
Good. It's about time.
Hastings? Oh, Hastings, my dear, dear Hastings.
Poirot, old chap.
Oh, mon ami, mon ami.
You may know him best as Captain Hastings, the loyal and dashing sidekick to Agatha Christie's beloved detective Hercule Poirot. Yet his acting career spanned over half a century, and the actor has appeared in plenty of films and TV shows over these years. So, who is the man behind the character? Tonight we're delving into the life and career of a man who's brought charm and elegance to our screens for decades, the one and only Hugh Fraser. Indeed, it was Captain Hastings who first appeared in Poirot's storyline and introduced us to the former Belgian police officer, soon to become Britain's new best detective, in the pages of The Mysterious Affair at Styles and the eponymous episode.
But
Half a dozen stamps, please.
Very good, sir.
Hastings? Good Lord.
Monsieur Poirot!
It is indeed mon ami Hastings!
Captain Arthur Hastings was Poirot's lifelong friend. They met at the front of the First World War. Wartime friendship grew into something bigger. Hastings became Poirot's closest confidant and a loyal and diligent sidekick in their investigative endeavors. Fraser's portrayal of the affable and sometimes bumbling Hastings provided the perfect counterbalance to David Suchet's meticulous Poirot.
All right, boys, the game's up. I want you to come quietly now.
Officer, I want to explain. My friend and I are here at the request of Monsieur Lavington.
The chemistry between the two actors was palpable and remains one of the series' greatest strengths. According to Christie, Hastings was about 30 years old when we first met him there at Styles. Poirot was supposed to be much older, a retired police detective in his 60s. However, in reality, Fraser and Suchet were almost the same age during filming. In fact, Hugh Fraser is actually 1 year older than Suchet. Did you know that fact? In the TV series, they did an amazing job of making Hastings look much younger than his Belgian friend.
And please, do not fraternize with that creature. I am still training him.
It's only a parrot.
I was talking to the parrot.
Curiously, Fraser would describe Hastings himself as this well-meaning but not the sharpest tool in the box sort of character, English gent. He added that the screenwriters deliberately went beyond Christie's book, giving him more depth and a rather richer character than the character in the books. Perhaps you heard that Christie herself wasn't a particular fan of Poirot's sidekick, and that's why she got rid of Hastings by sending him to Argentina for the good. So yeah, producers developed him into a somewhat more rounded supporting character. And Fraser agreed with that interpretation, saying that he also wanted his Hastings to be something quite original.
What a suspicious soul you are.
All those years with Poirot, I expect.
David Suchet recalled that Hugh didn't want Hastings to be a comedy character, a straight man if you like, because he thought, as I did, that his character was there to represent the audience in the story. That meant we had to find a way of making sure that Hastings was never allowed to look like a complete fool.
Well, it's not the carburetor, anyway.
This is not what I long to hear, Hastings.
Eh?
I want to hear what it was, not what it was not. Better still, I want to hear the motor.
By the way, would you agree that while David Suchet is the ultimate Hercule Poirot in so many accounts, when it comes to Hastings, Hugh Fraser is the one and only definitive master of the role. And so, what was his road to that part?
Do you like sports, Frederick?
Oh, I don't believe so, madam. I thought we liked stripes this year.
What kind of sycophant are you?
What kind of sycophant would you like me to be?
Hugh Fraser was born on the 23rd of October in 1945 in London, yet spent his childhood years in Midlands, England. From an early age, he was drawn to the world of acting, a passion that would guide his life. The actor recalled that he failed academically at school. Since he'd always had been very active in school plays, he then decided to audition for drama school and went to Webber Douglas in South Kensington when he was 18. At first, for a couple of seasons, he played tiny parts, like, say, that of a waiter. Sometime then, in 1972, Fraser even was one of the musicians who came up with the original musical theme for The Rainbow, the ITV children's television series, which ran for 20 years.
Tried to shift it, couldn't even lift it. We was getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea.
Right,
said Fred.
Give a shout for Charlie.
Charlie!
Hello!
At the same time, he did stage management, and television and films came gradually after that.
If we sell arms to the insurgents, we shall be in trouble at Geneva. If we sell arms to the government forces, we shall annoy Mussolini and Hitler.
What do you suggest?
So, back in 1978, he was cast to portray Anthony Eden, a former British Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party in the mid-1950s. Fraser played young Eden in the critically acclaimed short series Edward and Mrs. Simpson, which elaborates on the dramatic events preceding the famous abdication of King Edward VIII due to his wish to marry the woman he loved despite her inappropriate social status for the British royalty, the notorious Wallis Simpson.
You once said that he told you could always speak to him about anything. Perhaps this is the time to remind him of your privilege.
Kings like this one do not care to be reminded of other people's privileges.
That was quite a small part for Fraser, really, yet he still managed to establish himself as an actor with a perfect aristocratic presence, or say, that special breed of the people from the past who are now mostly gone with the wind. Or some sort of an ideal English gentleman. Would you agree that his looks perfectly suit this image? No wonder film directors and TV producers weren't blind to and often cast Fraser for this type of roles. This way, in 1982, he played in Peter Greenaway's comedy drama The Draftsman Contract. Or, my favorite, Disney's 101 Dalmatians in 1996, where he played this Frederick, working for Cruella in her haute couture fashion house.
I'm beginning to see spots. What would it cost us to start again on next year's line?
Millions?
Can we afford it?
Well, yes.
Thank you, darling. Now go away. I have to talk to Anita.
Or just look at this early 19th century portrait of the Duke of Wellington by Thomas Lawrence, and now at Hugh. It's a perfect match made in heaven, I wanted to say, but yeah, you got the idea. Who could play this legendary military and political figure better than Fraser did? I was surprised that he wasn't the first choice of the producers of this British TV series Sharp from the 90s. It tells the story of the fictional British soldier in the Napoleonic Wars, and Fraser replaced another actor in the role of Wellington as a supporting character.
I'll line the roads with provosts to keep them in order. Provosts, Major Sharp. For any infraction, to hang them on the spot. And if any man defies my provosts, or worse still, should turn a gun on one...
By the way, the entire cast here is really impressive. I mean, Sean Bean in the titular role. There is also Brian Cox, the star of The Succession, among all the other things. Or even Julian Fellowes, the creator of Downton Abbey and The Gilded Age. Together with the same Bean and Harrison Ford, Fraser played a small part in the 1992 American thriller movie Patriot Games.
Boats. Bottom of the cliff. Several ropes.
Kevin!
And just like many British actors of his time, Hugh is also an accomplished theatre actor. He appeared in plays like Cloud9, Traps and The Genius at the Royal Court Theatre or Philomena at the Lyric Theatre. A Shakespeare specialist, he engaged in different productions of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Hello, I'm Hugh Fraser, and I've chosen this poem Old Foxy by Sue Hardy Dawson because it falls on my birthday. The urban fox waits for Monday night's feast of Sunday's roast chicken bones, jellied and greased. Lunch in the lamplight, fish heads with leeks, crisp rinds of bacon and pizza midweek.
And yet, apart from the looks, it is undoubtedly the charming and soothing voice of Hugh Fraser that brought him so close to the hearts of viewers and listeners on both sides of the Atlantic. No wonder Fraser was frequently invited to narrate video games and, of course, books, the ones by Agatha Christie in particular, and he also took part in audio dramas and podcasts.
Is there ever any particular spot where one can put one's finger and say, it all began that day, at such a time and such a place, with such an incident?
Narrating a book or reading a part is one thing, yet how about writing your own book? Hugh Fraser got us covered. Being involved in Agatha Christie's realm for so many years didn't go unnoticed, and in 2015 Fraser published his first crime fiction thriller. Fraser confessed that he indeed was quite an admirer of Christie's books when he was a teenager and devoured almost all of them one after another. However, at the same time, his mysteries bear very little relation to the sophisticated world of Agatha Christie, and his own lead character is as far away from Poirot or Marple as one can possibly be. His Rena Walker is a young contract killer born in the post-war London slums. In the first book, she's just 15 years old, and there are at least 3 more books about her that Hugh released in recent years. What's more, Hugh Fraser has also done several gigs in theatre in director's chair. For example, he was behind David Mamet's adaptation of Chekhov's 1899 classic Uncle Vanya, and not so long ago, in 2022, he directed the first in an almost a century London production of Kate O'Brien's Distinguished Villa. So yeah, luckily even today Hugh Fraser continues to inspire and entertain, whether through his enduring performances or his compelling writing. And certainly he remains a beloved figure in the hearts of his fans and a shining example of talent and dedication.
You have won well, mon ami. With a straight back and the grey of the hair. With the wound that is still fresh.
No man could have wished for better.
Away from the spotlight, Fraser is a devoted family man. He fell in love with the fellow actor Belinda Lang in the late 80s when they were filming together in The Bratz, the show about a 1930s theatrical family. Since then, the couple have raised a daughter and still live together in a happy marriage. Well, it's hard to disagree that, for the public, Hugh Fraser would be remembered for his unparalleled fit into the character of Captain Arthur Hastings. Out of a 50-year-long acting career, he spent roughly 24 years, from 1989 to 2013, almost a quarter of a century, in Hastings' shoes. In fact, he appeared in 43 out of 70 episodes, more than anyone other than David Suchet. However, Hastings wasn't there in the last seasons and was brought back only for the last episodes, but still.
He was my dearest friend, you know. He was always there, keeping an eye on me, ticking me off. Like a father, really. I'm not quite sure how I'd cope without him.
So, will it be fair to say that Hugh Fraser was a sort of a victim of cruel actor's fate, being typecast because of this single role? Well, technically, yes, perhaps. Yet I'd rather say no, of course not. Quite the opposite. What a blessing and true artistic happiness it must have been to have something under your belt that had really touched the hearts of so many people of different generations and countries across the globe. Isn't this achievement a generous gift of life in its own merit?
This is Mr. Graves.
How do you do? How do you do? I was just saying to Monsieur Poirot how much I envy you all, the exciting business you're in.
Well, you know. Please.
Her precision is impeccable, her demeanor unflappable. Miss Felicity Lemon is the ultimate no-nonsense secretary to the great Hercule Poirot. But who is the talented actress behind this iconic role? Today we delve into the fascinating life and career of Pauline Moran.
Artichoke soup, served from a tureen. Fish pie and apple tart. I was chatting to the maid. She had some time off to see a film. All four of them at the same thing.
Excellent, Miss Lemon.
Welcome back, Mr. Enthusiast. If you are a fan of Agatha Christie mysteries, then you surely recognize this face. Pauline Moran brought Miss Lemon to life with such grace and charm. It was 1989 when ITV's Agatha Christie's Poirot cast her as Miss Felicity Lemon, the meticulous and efficient secretary to David Suchet's Poirot. Little did she know this role would become the highlight of her career. I didn't really expect to get it because I know the character of Miss Lemon and I'm not exactly as she is described in the books, the actress said. She has wiry hair and a pince-nez and is very, very exacting. I certainly don't fit that description. Nevertheless, Moran's portrayal of Miss Lemon was nothing short of brilliant. She captured the essence of Christie's character perfectly, from her no-nonsense attitude to her unwavering loyalty to Poirot.
There's one for you, Chief Inspector.
Oh, thank you.
None for Mr. Poirot, because I read an article on the train how ice cream was extremely bad for the little grey cells.
And 2 for me, because mine are dead already.
Agatha Christie described Miss Lemon as the perfect machine and a woman without imagination, but she ran Hercule Poirot's life for him. It was well known that the whole of Miss Lemon's heart and mind was given, when she was not on duty, to the perfection of a new filing system which was to be patented and bear her name, as Christie wrote about Miss Lemon's passion to filing and organizing.
Thank you, Miss Lemon. You may now go back to your filing. Miss Lemon dreams of the perfect filing system, besides which all other filing systems will sink into oblivion.
Poirot described her as being unbelievably ugly and incredibly efficient. Anything that she mentioned as worth consideration usually was worth consideration. Well, the ITV's Miss Lemon, thanks to the brilliant Pauline Moran, was definitely not ugly at all. On the opposite, she is portrayed as an attractive, fashionable and emotional woman, showing an occasional soft spot for Poirot.
If you please, Miss Lemon, do you have 2 pennies?
For a tip, Mr. Poirot?
For the telephone, Miss Lemon.
Pauline herself found something she had in common with Miss Lemon. She has the same fastidiousness and obsession with detail and precision as Poirot. I have a great amplitude for great detail myself. Many believe that there was something going on between the detective and his secretary. Well, at least from her side. Yet David Suchet, in his book Poirot and Me, dispels the speculations, highlighting the acting mastery of Moran, who managed to convey their peculiar relationship in a perfectly precise manner. Poirot was always respectful and charming towards women, wrote Suchet. He was also always reserved with them, and she, Pauline Moran as Miss Lemon, remained meticulously professional with him in every scene, never flirting for a moment, no matter how much she might have cared about him privately. She was a wonderful secretary and a very, very proper with Poirot, Moran would add herself. If she was even seconds late, both of them would be horrified.
I'm afraid, Miss Lemon, you must use a different perfume.
I never wear perfume to work, Mr. Poirot.
You don't?
It'd be most inappropriate.
It's curious that Agatha Christie wasn't apparently too much into the figure of Poirot's secretary. Miss Lemon, like Mrs. Oliver, originally appeared as Parker Pyne's secretary in Christie's Parker Pyne stories, and she only features in 4 Poirot novels and 4 short stories. So many of Miss Lemon's unique and quirky traits have been brought to us by the screenwriters and perhaps the actress herself. Indeed, Pauline brought such a unique energy to Miss Lemon. Her ability to balance the character's seriousness with subtle humor was incredible. Together with David Suchet, Hugh Fraser and Philip Jackson as Inspector Japp, the Big Four, as they call them, The actors had a fantastic on-screen chemistry.
What's your name, Chief Inspector?
Name? What name?
Your first name?
James.
James Japp.
Jimmy Japp.
Jamie Japp?
Chief Inspector Japp and I will leave you to play.
No doubt this part brought Moran fame and, yeah, immortality, why not? But have you seen the actress in some other roles? Or perhaps you do know something about her life? Well, I didn't, and nobody I asked did. Well, it means it is a perfect opportunity to discover the personality and pathway of Moran in acting and in life. Pauline Moran was born on 26th of August 1947 in Blackpool, Lancashire, England. By the way, this makes her the exact age mate with David Suchet, who in the series played her boss, Monsieur Hercule Poirot, who was certainly much older than the elegant Miss Lemon. Alas, there is not much you can find about Pauline's personal life. Like, I found out that she had a sister, at least one, she adores cats, I do too, and was famous for her particularly elaborate dinner parties at her Pimlico flat in London, where she apparently has been living alone. I'm not against boyfriends, the actress said in one interview, but I think marriage is geared up for men and offers them far more than it does for women. So I'll try to unveil the professional pathway of the actress who was lucky to touch the hearts of over 1 billion viewers in the world.
Apparently Dr. McAllister's what they call a woman's doctor.
A gynecologist?
No. Woman seems to be a general term for neurotic.
Just like many actors, Pauline displayed a passion for the performing arts from a young age. At first, she was studying acting under a private teacher. I always knew that I wanted to go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art to train as an actress. Back at the time, Moran was playing in an all-female music band. Keep watching this video to get to know better about this hat of hers. So, her idea was that she would earn money as a rock musician and use those funds to pay for RADA. And it worked. And again, just like many of her colleagues, after graduating from RADA in 1972, Moran didn't dive straight into television. Instead, she spent years performing in a repertory theatre across the UK, where she refined her skills and developed a deep appreciation for the intricacies of character work. Actually, there is a perfect explanation for that, if I may. Well, the golden age of TV was still yet to come, so no wonder actors, especially in England, were predominantly trained as theatre performers and looked for the parts in this field. In the 70s, TV projects were still gathering pace, so Moran followed the path of her predecessors and dived into stage acting. I can't say she became a leading actress, but still constantly performed in solid casts with the prestigious Royal Shakespeare Company and the internationally acclaimed Glasgow Citizens Theatre.
It was all for the best, I suppose.
She also tried her luck in some popping TV projects, which were already gathering pace and exploring the possibilities brought by this new medium. So, Pauline Moran used to appear in some small parts in episodes of different series from the mid-1970s.
The snow. How I love it. Snowflakes falling on my face.
In movies, she was mostly cast for minor supporting roles in films such as Woman in Black from 1989, Britain's scariest horror film as they spoke about it, where Moran got the part of an eccentric widow, Mrs. Drablow, who lives in her estate on the northeast coast of England. When it was first broadcast at 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve 1989, this movie caused a serious stir. Made specifically for TV, it was said to have wowed critics and ruined Christmas for a generation, having haunted all who watched it. I was cast for my ability to convey malevolence with no warmth at all, confessed Moran. Apparently, she did it perfectly, since much of the film's power lied in her portrayal of the woman in black, particularly the wordless, withering glares of hatred she directs at the key male character. In those days I was quite pre-Raphaelite and ethereal. There is a sadness in there and a pure hate for what's been done to her. I tried to convey what's happening in her mind. The actress spoke about her heroine. Have you had a chance to see this movie then? Share your experience in the comments. Perhaps her first notable appearance in TV series before Poirot was in the 1983 Cleopatras, where she played Cleopatra Berenike in 2 episodes out of an 8-part historical drama by BBC.
In Egypt, the crown descends in the female line. I am the widow of one king and the daughter of another.
Despite featuring real-life historical figures, it was still a fictional plot set in ancient Egypt. The cast was superb, yet the reviews were mixed, controversial and even rather harsh, to say the least. Well, these things happen, right? Moran didn't get discouraged, I suppose, and kept engaging in different projects on TV while maintaining her career on stage. And then, 6 years later, in 1989, came ITV's Poirot.
I do not like these urgent messages, Miss Lemon.
I never reply to urgent messages. I know they're going to be unpleasant.
No one knew it was going to be such a success. Not only David Suchet, but the amazing cast of his sidekicks contributed to the part.
It's nearly complete, you see. My system. Every one of your cases classified and cross-referenced 5 different ways.
5?
Oh, yes.
All in all, Moran was quite extensively engaged in the series from its beginning until 2001. In other words, you may meet her in 31 episodes in seasons 1 to 9, except season 4, and then she reappeared in the final episodes in 2013. Alas, there wasn't much happening in her wider audience career after Poirot. In 2003, Moran appeared in a small part in Byron, a British television film based on the adult life of English poet Lord Byron. And then again, a decade later, in 2014, she got a small part in a star-cast period drama, A Little Chaos, directed by Alan Rickman, Ironside himself, and Kate Winslet. After that, Pauline Moran seems to have bowed out of the acting game. She did spend 4 years as an equity counselor for an actors' union with a focus on gender equality, yet her life encompassed much more than acting alone. Beyond Poirot and other gigs on TV and theatre engagements, Pauline Moran's career spans over quite curious domains like music and astrology, no more no less. Quite a multi-talented individual.
Relax. Relax.
In the 1960s, she was a member of the band The She Trinity. Did you know that fact? She Trinity was an all-female pop group from 1965 to 1970. All members played their own instruments, quite a rarity for the period, and Moran played bass guitar. Their single, He Fought the Law, reached the UK charts, showcasing another facet of her artistic talent. How did she even end up playing in the band? I think I answered an advert for a female bass player in, was it the New Musical Express or probably the Melody Maker? Joking aside, Moran confessed that that wasn't her first musical gig, and that she began playing in another band already in her early teenage years back in Blackpool, and it was called The Misfits. Moran was a naturally gifted musician. Her colleagues by the group remembered that she had the most fabulous ear, like she could listen to something and play it immediately. Moran proudly points out that she remains a member of the Musicians' Union to this very day.
Mr. Poirot, I am trying to be helpful.
Miss Lemon, I am very grateful to you, but really I have no need of the hypnotics. I prefer to use my little grey cells.
And as for astrology, this endeavor of hers flourished exactly alongside Moran's participation in the Poirot series. Do you remember that in some of the episodes, the screenwriters placed a special emphasis on Miss Lemon's attraction to magic and spiritualism? Like, we learn that she adores reading tarot cards, practices hypnotism, and otherwise tries to communicate with the spirit world.
Hastings, what means this with the planchette?
Oh, we're just fooling around. It's interesting, though. We think this could be from King Men-Hurrah.
Hastings, please pull yourself together. We have business to which we must attend.
These details were not mentioned in any book by Christie, so I guess this hobby of Miss Lemon was a special tribute to Pauline Moran, who, apart from being an actress, began to describe herself as an astrologer at the time.
I don't know how you can tell her such guff, Poirot.
No, Hastings, it is not a guff.
By the way, apropos de Poirot's fictional character, the actress said that he would definitely be a Virgo. His attention to detail is a very Virgo trait. And in regards to her own success within the series, this she also predicted by the stars.
Can't make it out.
Yes. There's a C. That's an L.
It's not very clear.
It's definitely trying to say something, though.
Outside of the show, Moran is known to have identified an innovative and entirely practical method of using astrology to help parents guide their child's development. My reports emphasize the inner child and show where latent potentials lie, the actress said on her website. We should encourage them. It's not a collection of absolutes. We can develop what supports growth and transforms the energy lost in negative behavior. There are infinite possibilities.
You do realize I can't guarantee any results, Mr. Poirot?
I have the most complete faith in you, Miss Lemon.
Moran confessed that she developed this interest when she was very young, back in the 1960s. She first offered her astrological reports in 1987, even before becoming our beloved Miss Lemon, and this reportedly resulted in many repeat orders from satisfied clients. However, she hasn't been doing this any longer in these recent years.
The power of superstition. It is a power that is very great indeed.
What's more, I also found some mentions that she has been an accomplished dressmaker and designer. For example, it is known that Moran made many costumes for the music bands she belonged to and has always made most of her own real-life clothes. Another personal hobby of hers that was incorporated into Miss Lemon's eye for fashion and stylish outfits, which the actress particularly enjoyed. From her early days on the stage to her unforgettable role as Miss Lemon, Pauline Moran's career is a testament to her talent and charisma. Some might say Moran became a hostage of this only character of Miss Lemon. I wouldn't agree here. Quite the opposite. With this lucky part, she was able to reach the hearts of millions of viewers, not only in English-speaking countries, but all over the globe. Like, how many actors are there who have received such a gift in their profession? So, there is no doubt Pauline Moran has left an indelible mark on the world of entertainment. So, the next time you watch Poirot and see Miss Lemon's impeccable filing system or her witty exchanges with Poirot, remember the incredible journey of Pauline Moran, an actress whose talent goes far beyond the role that made her famous.
The office of Poirot is closed for business. Miss Lemon, cover up your typewriter. Good day to you, Chief Inspector Japp. And Hastings, will you please go home and nurse your unfortunate affliction? How would it be, Chief Inspector, if you and I were to have dinner together this evening?
Well, I have to say, Poirot, I could do with a good square meal.
Chief Inspector Japp, the steady hand, the quintessential British police detective who went far beyond the archetype and became a loyal friend of the eccentric Hercule Poirot. But who was the man behind the moustache? Today we dive deep into the fascinating career of Philip Jackson, the actor who brought this beloved character to life in ITV's legendary series Agatha Christie's Poirot.
Today we honor an English policeman for services beyond the call of duty.
Indeed, Christie's ferret-faced, as she put it, Chief Inspector James Harold Japp has actually been alongside Poirot for the longest time possible, appearing in a variety of intriguing cases. Just like it happened with the character of Miss Lemon, Poirot's stylish, no-nonsense secretary, Agatha didn't elaborate on his character much in the books, so once again we owe this captivating portrayal of this character to the talented screenwriters and, of course, Philip Jackson himself.
Have you got a nice bit of scrag end?
Scrag end, sir?
Non. Might I suggest a morceau de filet mignon, cooked à point, avec la sauce béarnaise?
All right, then.
That will be 6 shillings.
I beg your pardon?
The actor recalled that he didn't find Agatha Christie's books particularly insightful for studying Japp's personality, and the only thing he remembered was that Japp's hobby was botany and that he collected specimens and stuck them in books. I didn't find this at all useful to the way I wanted to play the part, so consequently it doesn't figure in my performance, Jackson laughed. At the same time, he definitely managed to get away with that traditional comical juxtaposition of a clever and witty private detective against the somewhat dumb and brutally straightforward police officer from Scotland Yard.
And who are you? Chief Inspector Japp, Scotland Yard.
Brought in the big guns, have they?
I'd like a word with Miss Estravados.
Estrabados.
In his portrayal, Jackson unveiled a quite true depiction of the humble day-to-day life and hard work of a police inspector in the 1930s. They didn't have enormous salaries and led a rather tough life, investigating ghastly crimes in rather unpleasant settings.
Sausages? I can't go carrying sausages around all afternoon. No. My desk isn't a blooming larder, Emily. Supposing someone...
That all might have become a source for their growing despise towards the more privileged members of society, who to them seemed to earn a lot of money with very little effort. In the series, we are shown glimpses of Japp's personal life from time to time, like how he spends time with his wife and immediate family, what are his preferences in food and lifestyle. All that is given as a striking contrast to the life of the Belgian Poirot, who, above all, cherishes aesthetics and sort of condescends to the rather mundane manners of his English counterpart.
What's that thing in the bathroom, Poirot?
Comment?
Like a foot bath.
The bidet.
Oh, bidet. It's got a sort of fountain thing in the middle. What's that for?
It is of no significance.
Nearly got a squirt in the eye when I turn it on.
The actor himself said that although he used to play quite a few detectives, he hasn't really done a lot of characters like Japp. My natural persona would be gritty, northern working class, and that's where I'm most comfortable. And yet, would you agree that on screen, both of them, Japp and Poirot, managed to overcome those superstitions and grow fond of each other, paying respect to everyone's peculiarities with years? Well, this gradual transition and controversial mutual relationship have been masterfully conveyed by Suchet and Jackson.
Well, what's the point of having a miniature garden? I mean, you can't do anything with it, can you? You can't take a deck chair out and sit in it.
They are art, Chief Inspector.
All in all, Philip appeared in 40 episodes of ITV's Poirot from 1989 to 2002. Just like Pauline Moran as Miss Lemon and Hugh Fraser as Hastings, he made a brief return in 2013, now promoted to the Assistant Commissioner, no longer just a Chief Inspector.
Why?
Why? I don't know why. Because he's balmy, that's why.
No doubt, judging by Jackson's charisma and obvious success in this iconic role, he must have been a particularly accomplished actor. However, I personally knew nothing about his other engagements beyond the Poirot universe. So if you are like me, let's have a closer look at his life, which turns out to be just as intriguing as any mystery novel.
I hope you've learnt your lesson, mate. Check your facts before you print.
Philip Jackson was born on June 18, 1948, in the small town of Retford, Nottinghamshire, England. Surprisingly, unlike many of his colleagues, he wasn't particularly into acting in the earlier period of his life. For example, Jackson once confessed that when a boy he always thought that other students involved in amateur dramatics at the grammar school were really not his type. He didn't relate to them. It was a local doctor's wife who came to the kids' church choir to help them produce some plays in the youth club, who actually managed to inspire young Philip to look into this field. So, looks like acting wasn't Jackson's first choice, really. However, the actor recalled that in the 1960s, people around him started to look for ways to avoid the conventional working trap of getting up early and doing one and the same thing day after day. And in this spirit, acting or directing really looked like something quite enticing. Wouldn't you agree?
Come on, Phil, lad, stop being a bloody drama queen and come and have a wet with us. Anyway, there's enough bloody rubbish in this canal already.
In 1966, Jackson enrolled at the University of Bristol to study German and drama. And that's where his acting career truly began to take shape. Upon graduation, he worked in the theatre in Leeds, Liverpool and London, playing some small parts, being kind of a stage management stroke actor. My first job on the first morning I arrived was fishing dead rats out of a flooded basement backstage, Jackson laughingly told in one of his recent interviews. Obviously, he learned a lot from his couple of years with the rap theatres, yet that wasn't the stage that made him known to the larger public. The 1970s were a time of great change in the British entertainment industry. New voices, new stories, and new faces were emerging. And one of those fresh faces belonged to Philip Jackson.
Oh, hello, Dylan. Talk to the devil. Hey, listen, man. My name's Melvin. What's all this Dylan scene?
Philip's ability to embody a wide range of characters, whether a hardened criminal, a loving father, or a quirky sidekick, soon made him a very prolific, sought-after actor both in film and TV. Prior to working on Poirot, Philip was known as Abbot Hugo in the 1980s cult series Robin of Sherwood. He also appeared in classic shows such as Porridge, Last of the Summer Wine, as well as Coronation Street, Midsummer Murders, Heartbeat, and A Touch of Frost. It was his role as Chief Inspector James Japp in Agatha Christie's Poirot that would etch his name in the annals of television history. However, the actor himself confessed that, for him, there were films like Brastoff, Little Voice, and one-off TV dramas from the 1970s that he was most proud of.
And you'd want to play with us, yeah?
I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you.
His relatively recent role as Grampy in Raised by Wolves TV sitcom sort of fell in the same category. It's very refreshing to be working on a series where none of the actors or characters is required to have a plummy accent or have been to an expensive public school. the actor said. And perhaps the most surprising engagement would be the famous Take On Me video by a-ha in 2005. Like, were you prepared to spot him there? I used to play a five-a-side football with the director and he just asked me to do it, the actor recalled. Just like that, really. In 2012, he appeared in Oscar-nominated My Week with Marilyn, and about a decade ago, in 2014-2016, he was playing the role of Alan, a 60-something, easygoing recent retiree in another BBC sitcom, Boomers. Apparently, it was perfectly in line with his own feeling of age and time in life and career. A lot of people become quite boring as they get older. I'm really trying not to do that. If anything, I quite like to get more frivolous and irresponsible before fading away. As Benjamin Franklin said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. Jackson confessed that when he was younger, the idea of spending time with someone in their 60s was not something he would sort of dream of. Luckily, when he got older, something has apparently changed. Now the baby boomer generation are viewed as normal, fresh, dynamic, and energetic people. When are we going to start feeling old? My generation have a dynamic lifestyle, lots of play. We're certainly not fading away. A curious observation, which I tend to agree with. And you?
Tell you what, I'm a disinterested party. Let me be the judge of this.
That's why he hasn't ever stopped filming and participating in different projects for all these years. Whether it was another drama mystery or hunting for antiques together with his friend Brian Cox on TV, or voice work in radio dramas and audiobooks, Jackson's ability to sleep seamlessly between genres, comedy, drama, even horror, is a testament to his incredible talent.
That's the most devilish thing I've ever heard.
Yes, Chief Inspector. It was indeed unique, huh?
Jackson never recognized the option of retirement for him as an actor. Perhaps that's because he never really grew tired and exhausted of the craft, which has certainly become his passion. I've never known the permanence of a regular job, but between acting commitments, time is your own, and I have no difficulty finding enjoyable things to do. Playing tennis, reading, meeting pals, movies, a bit of theater, travel, music, marveling at my kids' achievements, eating, drinking, mowing the grass, and writing the definitive novel about the decline of Western civilization. What an exemplary amount of energy and love for life in so many ways and senses, isn't it? Perhaps that was his happy family with his lifelong partner, actress Sally Baxter, and their 2 children that made Jackson's life so fulfilled and his attitudes flexible and versatile in so many directions.
Toujours la femme, Chief Inspector. You've a phrase in English which means the same?
Well, nothing as crisp as yours, sir. We just tend to say something like, mark my words, there'll be a woman at the bottom of it somewhere.
Like, quite unusual for many of his colleagues from the same age group, yet the actor happily admits that he is eagerly embracing modern technology. I'm an iPad and iPhone person, but I'm frequently enraged by how often technology does something I don't want it to, for no apparent reason, and then he goes on scolding the online maps, electronic books like Kindle, stating his strong preference for vinyl music. Well, we all have our little things, right? The most important is to take it with some sane amount of good humor, the sense that never betrayed Philip Jackson. What would be my epitaph? He had a fine head of hair. And this says all about this actor.
3 tall men with furtive walks, 4 short men with black moustaches, 2 men with beards, 3 fat men, 1 man with a peculiar hat, and if I'm to believe what they say, every one of them had a sinister expression.
I spent a large amount of my life trying to get people to forget I played Chief Inspector Japp. Apart from one episode in the final series, I hadn't played Japp since 2000, so it's not been part of my life for a long time. Unfortunately, it gets churned out on various satellite channels, so I'm still very associated with it. Oh, this really feels like a curse to poor Jackson, right? Yet definitely a blessing to all of us viewers across so many different countries in the world who are lucky to watch his outstanding performance every now and then.
Your health, Chief Inspector.
I don't suppose you've got a nice glass of beer, have you, Poirot?
So next time you watch an episode of Poirot, raise a glass to Philip Jackson, the man who brought one of the literature's most beloved detectives to life. Cheers to you, Philip.
I proclaim James Harold Japp, a compagnon de la Branche d'Or. Vive compagnon! Vive le compagnon!
Do you believe in witches?
It's Halloween for young and old.
Did you know that Agatha Christie included her own self in several of her detective mysteries? Well, it wasn't a proper cameo, yet she almost certainly embedded many of her personal traits in the fabulous recurring character of Ariadne Oliver, a fictional detective writer who was assisting Hercule Poirot in solving some of the most challenging mysteries.
Thank you, Hercule.
In this episode, we will go to a Halloween party together with the beloved characters and uncover several curious real-life connections that Christie left for us in her novels.
It is time for Poirot to tell to you a story. A Halloween story.
Many of you watched at least some of the Poirot series episodes that feature an esteemed crime writer and his close friend Ariadne Oliver. She appeared in 6 Christie novels alongside Poirot from 1936 to 1972 and also features in a spooky standalone novel, The Pale Horse. Curiously, she did first appear in 2 short stories alongside another Christie's detective, Parker Pyne, in Parker Pyne Investigates.
It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, Ariadne. No. I've got to take my time. Last one looked like it had had a stroke.
She is a middle-aged novelist herself who gets inspired by the crime she sees in her own life and then uses it as a plot for her next bestseller. One of the foremost writers of the detective and other sensational stories. Sounds much like Christie already, right?
Mrs. Drake says you're a writer, the one who does the murder stories.
Yes.
You must make a lot of money out of it.
Although Agatha never mixed up in a real-life murder, perhaps that could have been a secret dream of hers. What would you say? What's more, Oliver has also created her own fictional foreign detective, Finnish Sven Jersen. By the way, the character has recently got his own TV series set in modern-day Stockholm. Have you watched it already? I'd be curious to read your recommendations in the comments.
You have a detective who's a Finn, haven't you?
Sven Jersen.
Why a Finn?
I've often wondered.
And just like Agatha, according to her memoirs, Ariadne sometimes, quite often, struggles with her own creation and contemplates her frustrations.
I've just realized I've got to cut one of my favorite ideas. Shame.
With her help, Christie was apparently generously sharing with us the curious insights into the life of a writer.
Chère Madame, you should not work, you should rest.
I have deadlines, Poirot, in sickness and in health.
Her Ariadne has authored more than 56 novels and greatly dislikes people modifying her characters. And this was the exact feeling Agatha had each time some new stage or movie director tried to exaggerate or completely erase some of the traits of her meticulously drawn characters.
So they thought they'd have a murder hunt instead. And they offered me a tidy sum to come and dream it up. Well, anything's better than writing.
Moreover, she also once grew tired of Poirot to the age of almost hating him at some point.
Are you sitting comfortably?
No.
No? Good. We wouldn't want that, would we? Not on a dark and stormy night like this one.
Luckily, Agatha Christie invited us all to a party where we could not only dive into the universe of the fancy orange pumpkins, scary skeletons, zombies and ghosts, spiced with some down-to-earth murder, but also enjoy the company of her own persona. Well, through Ariadne Oliver, of course.
Not enjoying it, huh?
It is the subject matter, George. It is distasteful. Poirot, he has seen much evil in this world. He should not be the subject of such mockery.
The Halloween Party novel was released by Christie towards the end of her extremely fruitful career in 1969. The fictional novelist Ariadne Oliver found herself in a rather unusual setting in preparation for the Halloween evening party. The party consists of many Halloween-related activities. There is a spooky witch, girls look into a mirror to know what their future husbands will look like, the traditional supper, the prizes are granted, and the party ends after a game of a snapdragon.
Take care, don't take too much. Be not greedy in your clutch. Snip, snap, dragon.
By the way, many of the festive details are rather inaccurate in terms of the supposed time period. They might have been common in the 1960s when she wrote the novel, but were completely not spread in the 1930s, the deliberate time frame of the movie.
It's more a Christmassy thing, isn't it? Well, we Drakes always played at Halloween.
What makes it a real bone-chilling evening is the crazy murder by the end of it.
Hercule Poirot speaks? Oh, thank God you're in.
The mystery riddle is really complicated, and Oliver seeks the help of her Belgian detective friend Hercule Poirot, who would embark on the setting to unfold the dramatic chain of events. Not to spoil the pleasure for those of you who haven't watched it yet, I won't disclose the details about the crime, the victim, and the investigation process. The TV adaptation with the stunning David Suchet and Zoe Wanamaker is definitely worth watching and rewatching on your spooky Halloween evening.
At this time of year in Belgium, it is the custom to light the candles in memory of the dead, not to tell the stories macabre.
By the way, I have never seen a person who didn't enjoy the character of Ariadne Oliver. Or perhaps you are that person? Share your rationale in the comments. I guess such popularity might be attributed to a large extent to the stunning acting of Zoe Wanamaker. Much like what happened to other starring actors from Agatha Christie's mysteries movies and TV adaptations, Wanamaker did first appear in another role, this time as a leading character in the fabulous Murder is Announced episode from Agatha Christie's Miss Marple.
Well, I know one thing that's going to happen, and that's at 7:30 we'll have half the village up here agog with curiosity.
Especially the old fogies. They love a good murder.
Once again, no spoilers here. I just highly recommend you add it to your watch list if you like Zoe Wanamaker. She's doing a great acting job there too.
Oh, bless you.
I do beg your pardon.
Back to Halloween. This episode is a perfect opportunity to get to know more about the writer through the actions of her tentative alter ego. Just like Christie, Oliver often gets overwhelmed by her own imagination, yet always listens carefully to her intuition and trusts her instincts. She has a rather sharp tongue and a spark of mischief, well balanced with a sense of humor and really light-hearted approach to life.
Now what?
Jehovah's Witnesses?
Another perfectly matching similarity with Christie. Apart from personal traits, they both shared some particular tastes. For example, both of them didn't enjoy alcoholic drinks.
Awful. Put that in capital letters. Awful. Because, you see, it's my murder. I organised it. I don't usually drink, but Poirot gave me this for the shock.
In her autobiographical book, Come Tell Me How You Live, Agatha tells the amusing story from the first years of her second marriage, when her husband, Max Malone, was distressed to find that her appreciation of good drink, or indeed of any drink, was nil. He set to work to educate me, trying me perseveringly with clarets, burgundies, sauternes, grapes, and more desperately with Tokay, vodka, and absinthe. In the end, he acknowledged defeat. My only reaction was that some taste worse than others. With a weary sigh, Max contemplated a life in which he was condemned to the battle of obtaining water for me in a restaurant.
You'll have to keep an eye on you, Mrs. Oliver. There'll be no apples left to bob with.
My besetting sin, I'm afraid. I can't resist them.
Another funny detail, just like her real-life prototype, Oliver used to eat apples while writing her crime novels. Once she ate as many as 5 pounds straight off while composing the complicated plot of her novel, which obviously caused a stomachache. However, by the end of the Halloween party episode, she is out of them by the unfolding events.
What is the matter? Something has upset you?
Upset me? Dear God, I shall never be able to look at another apple again.
Christie's interviewer confirmed that it was perfectly true that she often worked at her stories in a large, old-fashioned bathroom, eating apples and putting the cores on the wide mahogany surround.
Your talk tomorrow?
Well, I've been meaning to have a word with you about that, Judith. I'm not feeling too clever.
Oliver hates public appearances, which were a huge nuisance to Christie herself. She revealed how hard it was to even open her mouth and say something decent when everyone's watching. So they both tried to stay out of the limelight.
What was the subject of your talk?
My writing. Awfully pleased not to have to give it as a matter of fact. I mean, what does one say about how one writes books? You just think of an idea and force yourself to write it. What am I going to say for the other 59 minutes?
And since Agatha preferred to refrain from conflicts, she chose another method to communicate her discontent with some particular things through her proper alter ego in the books and later movies. All in all, it was not uncommon for writers of all epochs to include some supporting characters in their narratives that would express the author's thoughts and feeling on the subject. I never take my stories from real life, but the character of Ariadne Oliver does have a strong dash of myself, Christie once said in an interview. No doubt, Oliver wasn't meant to be the exact copy or a marble statue, if I may, of the writer. It seems that Christie deliberately created a somewhat exaggerated and even satirical portrait of the writer, poking fun at her own image.
You mean elephants? Sorry, I was thinking of elephants at that dinner last night.
With hesitation, I ask why.
Because the meringue got stuck in my teeth.
I see.
Those who had known Christie personally didn't describe her as an eccentric personage, while Oliver is much closer to this notion. Not exactly a parody, a portrait of Ariadne is Agatha's reflection on her own public image, which certainly reveals glimpses of her true self, yet still protects the intimate introvert personality of the author, hiding behind the curtains of the generally anticipated perception of who a bestseller author should be.
It's like a nightmare.
Or a tale of terror. Poirot, he was right, huh? Halloween is not the time for the telling of the stories macabre, but to light the candles for the dead.
Her name is synonymous with versatility, talent, and the flair for the dramatic. From Shakespearean stages to primetime TV, from Harry Potter to Poirot and Marple's Agatha Christie mysteries and beyond, tonight we're shining the spotlight on the personality of the remarkable actress whose career spans decades and continents, the bewitching Zoe Wanamaker.
Poirot, he has arrived to Devon. Mais pourquoi?
Because there's something amiss. I think someone's going to die.
My channel is in large part dedicated to mysteries and period drama series and movies, British in particular, and Zoe Wanamaker is definitely a household name when it comes to this genre. For example, Zoe's portrayal of the eccentric Poirot's friend, the apple-loving mystery writer, is nothing short of iconic. By the way, the charming Ariadne Oliver is in some part an alter ego of Agatha Christie, the fact that she admitted in her autobiography.
I don't think I heard you properly. Pardon?
Ariadne Oliver is a middle-aged novelist who gets inspired by the crime she sees in her own life and then uses it as a plot for her next bestseller.
Mrs. Drake says you're a writer, the one who does the murder stories.
Yes.
You must make a lot of money out of it.
One of the foremost writers of detective and other sensational stories. Sounds much like Christie already, right? Oliver has also created her own fictional foreign detective, and just like Agatha, Ariadne often struggles with her own creation and contemplates her frustrations.
What was the subject of your talk?
My writing. Awfully pleased not to have to give it as a matter of fact. I mean, what does one say about how one writes books? You just think of an idea and force yourself to write it. What am I going to say for the other 59 minutes?
What a rich soil for artistic interpretation, right? Yet I won't go into much detail here about the universally beloved character of Ariadne Oliver. I do have a particularly detailed episode dedicated to her on my channel, so have a look at it after you finish watching this video.
I don't really know what I should do. What would you do, were you me?
All in all, Zoe Wanamaker starred in 6 serious episodes of Agatha Christie's Poirot by ITV. Her chemistry with David Suchet added a delightful dynamic to the series, making each episode she appeared in a treat for viewers.
It's the yin and the yang together, and that's why they get on. That's why they tolerate each other.
By the way, Wanamaker also played alongside David Suchet on stage in All My Sons at the Apollo Theatre in 2010.
He's not going to marry her.
How do you know he's even thinking of it?
However, much like it happened to other starring actors from Agatha Christie's universe pictured in movies and TV adaptations, before becoming the regular recurring character of one of Poirot's sidekicks, Wanamaker made her debut in another role. Back in 2005, she played a leading character in the fabulous Murder is Announced episode from Agatha Christie's Miss Marple. Geraldine McEwen is playing the old lady sleuth. We talked a lot about her on my channel, and Zoe is delivering a particularly sophisticated portrayal of quite an intricate character of Letitia Blacklock, who invites the village crowd to an evening party where a real murder is happening to quite a shock of the gathered crowd. I wouldn't like to spoil the pleasure for those of you who haven't seen this episode, yet indeed no one would mix her here with the fabulous Oliver.
Well, I know one thing that's going to happen, and that's at 7:30 we'll have half the village up here agog with curiosity.
Especially the old fogies. They love a good murder.
The undoubtedly brilliant actors like David Suchet, Hugh Fraser, or say Joan Hickson, who starred in key roles in Christie mysteries, they all got closely linked to their respective characters. Zoe Wanamaker is an actress who has managed to stay as versatile in this profession as one can possibly be. So, who then she really is?
No, the answer, madame, lies in the past. You must delve into the past.
You know what? Somehow I've always been thinking that Zoe Wanamaker is a quintessential British actress, to the core. So yeah, I was even surprised to learn that she was born on the other side of the Atlantic on May 13th, 1949 in New York.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday to me!
She is the daughter of Canadian actress and radio performer Charlotte Holland and the renowned American actor and director Sam Wanamaker, of Russian Jewish descent, whose parents escaped the empire running away from the merciless pogroms. Sam Wanamaker surprisingly moved in the opposite direction. The thing is, he had all the reasons to have that fear of becoming blacklisted in Hollywood and even framed due to his communist views in the 1950s because of the anti-communist McCarthy witch hunts. So the family fled to London when Zoe was just 3 years old. This way, she was brought up in Hampstead, and all she remembers of the Wanamaker's country house in Connecticut is that it was pretty wild and wolves howled in the distance.
You was at school with Lady Ravenscroft?
Yes, I was.
Where do you live now? Buckingham Palace?
Mayfair.
How may we be of assistance, your ladyship?
In London, Zoe's mother, Charlie, decided to quit acting, while Sam became extensively involved in English theatre while continuing film and television work, and soon Zoe followed in the footsteps of her father. In fact, she was the only girl among 3 daughters in the Wanamaker family to take up acting. By the way, as a little digression, did you know that in that famous Tarantino movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Sam Wanamaker is one of the characters, played by Nicholas Hammond?
Sam Wanamaker.
Hey, Sam, sorry about the wet hand.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm used to it with you. I just want you to know I'm the one who cast you, and I could not be more delighted that you're doing this.
Well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. That's a good part.
Yeah.
Although Zoe was brought up and mastered her skills in London, we'll talk about that soon, she still always felt herself an alien. I've always felt that I was American, because the English speech rhythms and word patterns took me ages to learn. Sometimes Wanamaker would even feel desperately miscast, because everybody else in the company seemed to have terribly English backgrounds. Yet hasn't she ever performed in the States? Oh yes, she did. For the first time she went there with Trevor Nunn's Once in a Lifetime in 1979, and then continued with Piaf alongside Jane Lapotaire. And just like in this ill twist of fate, being on stage with the same shows they performed in Britain, there was something that made her feel both at home and, well, in a totally different set of decorations. For the first time in my career, I knew I was home. Not only geographically in America, but theatrically too. I could hear the lines as I read them. Broadway was terrifying. There is a lot of fear around there which just doesn't exist in the English theatre, and if you don't get above the title, which I didn't, they make you feel less than nothing.
On the calendar, it's a different place, but here, without the dollar, you don't look the world in the eye. Talk from now to next year. This is life in America.
In addition to differences at work, in everyday life she always felt American in England and vice versa. Although they did offer her some new gigs in the States, Wanamaker decided to still follow her guts. They did ask me to stay, but none of the offers seemed very exciting, and having originally thought that I was going back to my Broadway heritage, I in fact found that I had become somehow rather too English to cope with the life out there.
I'm well aware you think me irrational.
That, madame, it is your intuition.
Whatever it is.
Perhaps that was one of the major reasons Wanamaker decided to return to Britain and not pursue her career in Hollywood and Broadway as she initially planned to. I suppose my sensibilities are English. My thoughts are more closely associated to the British about such things as money and values, manners and language, the actress recalled back in the day. So yeah, she is an American, yet so British actress. Zoe once shared that she decided she wanted to act at the age of 10 after spending a summer in Stratford with her parents, who were obviously opposed to that early choice of their daughter and trying to protect her from the bitter competition and rejection which goes hand in hand with this occupation. Zoe was a difficult child. As a character, I was always dramatic. I fancied myself as something romantic. It still holds true. I have always liked being other people more than myself. And that really answers why I chose to become an actress, because I never wanted to grow up.
You are a woman who is most sensitive. You are affected by the atmosphere, by the personalities that surround you. These are the inspirations for your brain that is so fertile.
When Wanamaker had to grow up, at least technically, she first attended Hornsey College of Art, where she tried painting in a pre-diploma course, but found it too much like hard work. She then tried to take a course on speed writing and even briefly worked as a typist, yet all that didn't suit her personality at all.
And your talk tomorrow?
Ah, well, I've been meaning to have a word with you about that, Judith. I'm not feeling too clever.
So finally, Zoe applied for a place at Central School of Speech and Drama. Acting was there all the time, she said, and eventually she couldn't avoid it. In fact, in the beginning, Wanamaker was sort of emerging from the shade of her father's reputation in the industry and was long perceived as Sam's daughter. There was not only her famous surname, but quite amusingly, the face that she felt didn't belong to her. But it really belongs to my father, here especially, and she would sketch a circle around her nose and upper lip. When I left drama school, I thought I'd never make it because my face wasn't normal. The actress recalled in one of her early interviews. I used to watch people's reactions when I went for an audition. I could usually get that far because they wanted to see what I was like, daughter of a famous father and so on. It helped me to get my foot in the door, but after that, nothing. They'd look me over and I could almost read their minds. What could she play? How could we use her? And it was because they thought I looked odd. It's the reason, I suppose, that I've done a lot of costume parts. No one seems to think I have a contemporary face, and that's quite something to live with.
I've just realized I've got to cut one of my favorite ideas. Shame.
In the mid-70s, Zoe even used to think that her face was, ugly. Well, ugly in the context that it's an individual face. I'm not complaining. I can never be typecast. Well, this works as an explanation. She's indeed not a typical heroine of any sort. Actually, we talked about this phenomenon in my videos about Margaret Rutherford, Joan Hickson, Angela Lansbury and other actresses of the past who had to follow the comedian path without even a shot for leading dramatic parts. That was the perception of their individual physical features among directors and content producers of their day. Zoe Wanamaker was lucky to enter the acting path decades later, when something had already begun to change. So, back then, in the 70s, Zoe was proclaimed one of the brightest young TV acting talents on her own merit, right from the get-go. In theatre, Zoe's career began with 4 years at regional theatres and then took off with the well-earned critical acclaim for her roles in classic Shakespearean plays such as The Taming of the Shrew and Much Ado About Nothing. It's curious, yet the latter was almost doomed. The worst moment in my career, the actress said, since she was to take over someone else's part in that play. I was expected to behave and play my part exactly like my predecessor. I was not allowed to improvise or develop the part within myself at all. At the time the director was in New York, I was told that only if I paid for all the telephone calls would the company be prepared to consult him. Luckily, she managed to get out of the situation brilliantly. Remember that gig on Broadway we talked about previously? Like they wanted her to stay, yet she decided to get back to England. Well, frankly speaking, there was something more to get back to in addition to the ever-growing English identity. The Royal Shakespearean Company offered Zoe Wanamaker 3 comedies at Stratford, so why not, she thought. Her extraordinary talent quickly made her a beloved figure in the theatre world, and the British stage in particular, so eventually Wanamaker became an associate to the National Theatre and an honorary president of the Shakespearean Globe. A curious detail, it is directly related to the life project of her own father, Sam Wanamaker, the reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre on the South Bank in London. He was passionate about building a faithful replica of the Globe and spent 27 years trying to get his project finished.
It's emotional because he's not here to see it, and it took him so long, and you witness how wonderful it is when you go inside, when you see it, and you feel that I couldn't understand why it took so long.
He was awarded a CBE in early 1993 and sadly died later that year of cancer. So when Queen Elizabeth II opened the Globe in June 1997, Zoe Wanamaker was the first person to speak on stage when she read a passage from Henry V. In year 2000, Wanamaker met the Queen once again when she was also honored as CBE, Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. If we start to look at each of her engagements, from Chekhov to Shakespeare to Sophocles, that rich tapestry of roles and performances, this would take us hours and hours, and we still miss something, that's for sure. She definitely became a major evergreen success on stage, whichever age group and role she was offered to play.
You are retarded. That's not a beard, it's fungus. Is there hair down there? Or is it all shrunken like a mossy statue of some baby man?
An array of prestigious award nominations and subsequent wins says it all. All in all, for her stage career, Zoe Wanamaker was nominated for 4 Tonys for her appearances on Broadway, as well as won 2 Olivier Awards for her work in London's West End for Electra and Once in a Lifetime, a statement her outstanding talent and dedication. Wanamaker is obviously indebted to theatre for the shape her career has taken, yet luckily went beyond that and expanded her engagements to films and TV. Like, for many, she would be Tessa from BBC's series Love Hurts, or this hilarious matriarch Susan Harper in My Family, another BBC primetime hit sitcom that was there for 11 seasons over the course of a decade.
Listen, I've decided to put an end to this madness that is ruining all our lives.
You gonna kill Dad?
No.
For younger folks, she is the enigmatic games mistress Madame Hooch in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Welcome to your first flying lesson. Well, what are you waiting for?
Some adore her Agatha Christie engagements we already spoke about in such detail.
Chère Madame, you should not work, you should rest.
I have deadlines, Poirot, in sickness and in health.
Her versatility knows no bounds, and she has brought a unique spark to every role, indeed. Having begun her career more than half a century ago, Zoe Wanamaker is still here, not planning to step down out of the spotlight. Yet now she seeks out projects based on how intriguing they are, something unlike anything she'd done before, or, in her words, something completely nuts. These 5 decades of an exciting acting journey weren't made of highs only, yet obviously contained its lows. Wanamaker has always been self-doubting by nature. My job is to act. I don't have the confidence to be a personality. That was another reason she rejected that transfer to the American scene early in her career. She was frightened of having to experience rejection there after seeking out roles. In England, I'm sent scripts, relieving me of the strain of chasing down parts.
Ralphie, I worked too hard all my years to be treated like dirt.
You see, somehow Zoe thought that she wasn't very good, although did maybe have something. Acting is a craft, she said, not a calling. The more you do it, the less awful you get. So I just kept working. Drama documentaries on television, a Young Vic season, whatever came along. Quite typical for an introvert sort of character, right? Her friends often describe the actress as very caring and sensitive, even naive and too trusting, as if she wears her heart on her sleeve. And certain lack of close and trustful relationships is what Wanamaker always regretted having chosen theatre as a profession. Apart from the odd hours, is that my circle of friends is somewhat limited. And in the love relationships department, Wanamaker has also been a sort of a loner for quite a long period in her life.
You need to love. You need to understand what it is to love. You carry on about the future and the great bright world, but you are scared to love.
Well, she obviously had long-term passions and once confessed that she preferred Englishmen to Americans, yet she never fancied starting a proper family. It's hard enough to find time to feed myself, let alone be responsible for anything else. I'm not good on my own in that I can't fix the veto if it goes wrong, but then I'm not saying I wish I had a man around. That's boring. Even in her roles, Wanamaker at some point noticed a pattern. Many of them could be described as long-suffering women. Hey, what is it about you, Zoe? What makes you so right for all these parts? Is that you are a failure in relationships? She would mockingly interrogate herself. Oh, I don't know. If only I did know, she would reply with laughter.
One of the important things about negotiations is to look for the middle ground, because it's never the case that one side is completely right and the other side is completely wrong.
Whatever it was, it all changed when Wanamaker finally decided to tie the knot at the age of 45 in 1994 when she got married to actor and writer Gordon Granger, with whom she previously worked in Bob Hoskins' 1988 film The Tragedy Ronnie. The couple were long-term acquaintances by the moment, and both suffered terrible family losses due to cancer. Zoe of her father's and Gordon that of his wife. This grief brought them together, and in 2 years they got married. They didn't have kids of their own, yet Zoe has never regretted the fact and eagerly took on the role of, as she joked, the wicked stepmother to Granger's 2 children.
I don't remember coming to your confirmation.
I don't remember having one.
Oh dear.
But you sent a very nice check on my 21st birthday, so I would say your duties are done.
It has been an over half-century-long career. Launched with a self-doubt and search for identity, it nevertheless turned into a standalone masterpiece pathway of its own. A rare example of a truly versatile actor's portfolio that escaped the curse of a cookie-cutter typecast star. Well, still, I guess there could be a perfectly quintessential label that might be attached to most, if not all, the heroines Zoe played on stage or on screen. Strong, quirky women, the quirkier the better, the actress would say herself. Today, there is finally no fear holding her back. If it scares me, then it's worth doing. Thank you for being with me today, celebrating Zoe Wanamaker, one of the most beloved actresses on both sides of the Atlantic. Who knows which new role of hers would surprise us next? Meanwhile, I wish you all the best. Take care and see you very soon in one of my other videos. Bye!
You and I are elephants, you know. We're good at remembering.
No, Mama. We are the human beings. And human beings, mercifully, they can forget.